What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Moving with Life. This is actually episode 112, which is pretty cool. We'll see. No, let's see. What was I gonna say? It's been. Well, to be frank, it's been kind of a weird couple of days. I had a little procedure done, and that's why I still kept this bracelet on. But it was just because I'm getting some tooth work done, and I had to get sedated yesterday, and so that was a whole thing. And that was, I mean, it was I won't say it's pretty cool, but it was interesting being on the other side of the table and on the actual bed. I had to get an IV and all this other stuff, and I got sedated, so that was that. That's how my Friday went for the most part. I didn't know what to expect, mostly because the last time I had to do anything like that was, it was over 10 years ago when I got my wisdom teeth pulled out. Oh, just about, a little over 10 years ago, like my wisdom teeth got pulled out. And that one just knocked me. I just remember just being out for the count for at least 4 days. Because I remember doing it. I remember the whole timeline. I was already 18 when I got it done. But they pulled all 4 out, and then so before that, previously, like a few years before that, I had needed to get a root canal on one of my molars, and lo and behold, a few years later, I started feeling just it's pain, and it started getting well, now I know it got infected. That's what it was. But it was like, there was like little pus and, stuff going on there. I'm like, what, so anyways, finally get to, where I need to get my wisdom teeth pulled out. When I get my eval done and all that stuff, I'm like, hey, there's something wrong with this tooth. And they're like, oh yeah, it's dead. With a root canal, it's basically already dead, because they put little rubber inserts into your nerve parts of your tooth. And if you've never had one, and hopefully you never have to get one, because I do remember that. I'm like, that was one time that I was like, I never want to get a root canal ever again. And that's been like definitely a goal I've had since I was really, really young. Yes, I've had a cavity here here and there, because I love candy, and I brush my teeth regularly, but I have a sweet tooth. We know this from my listeners that have been hanging in there since 2017. We know this. Anyways. So they're like, yeah, well, it's infected. Do you want us to take it out along with the wisdom teeth? I'm like, well, you might as well. I mean, for one, it hurt. Like, main thing was that it hurts, and it was overly bothersome. Is not even the right word. It hurt. It was no bueno. It's no good. So I just remember that week. So I got 5 teeth taken out. Technically, I got all 4 wisdom teeth pulled out, and then that 5th one. And I just remember being out. I remember. Because I had to take certain antibiotics. Well, I'm assuming it was certain antibiotic, but then I took this one pill. I'm guessing it was like some type of muscle relaxer. Because even this time I was like, oh, well, I get that. Like, I get that. Now that I'm kind of better acquainted, I'm not well acquainted. I'm just better acquainted. If I don't know something, I'll just look up like what class the drug is, or what does this drug do, or what's it supposed to do, given whatever the patient's condition is. And so I'm like, oh, I get some of that. Like, wow, I've never had that drug, and blah blah. Anyways, going back to the wisdom teeth story. Wisdom teeth story. Last thing I remember is by the time I got to the office, all I remember is walking to the door to go to the back and sitting down. After that, I don't remember anything. I know I was talked to, but like I was already very spotty, which was, it's a trip. It's literally a trip, because you get put down, and then they do the procedure, come out, and I remember being wheeled out, and I slightly remember the ride back home, and maybe also some of it's just because it's been so long that I have since I've had that procedure done, but still. So anyways, now I'm in a situation now where I'm able to get teeth work done, and anything that needs to be done, I can get it. I can at least. They can put it, like my docs can put in the word, and then I got approved for the next level. Now I'm able to get a tooth implant, so that's pretty cool. I actually have I guess he's technically a coworker that he's had a few implants because he actually dealt when he's older than me, but he actually dealt with a very same situation where he said, but actually multiple. I'm like, well, I don't know if I want I don't know if I want multiple implants, but we'll do this one because it's available to me. I can get it, and so anyways, so I got bone graft done because of just the way because I haven't had anything there for so long. So the doc was like, hey, we're gonna have to do a bone graft, and then we'll see if we want to put the actual implant, basically the tap, if we want to do the tap and put the implant there, because there's still no tooth there, or like even like the artificial tooth, but the actual socket is now there, and now it needs to heal. Now they have to go in there, put the bone graft, put the screw in there with it, and then they close it up. My fear, because even when I went in yesterday, like, oh, how are you doing? I'm like, well, honestly, I'm kind of nervous. And one of it, yes, because like, it's actually a procedure that's happening on me. But the main thing for me was the after effects. I didn't know how. I don't take many. I don't take ibuprofen. I don't need to. I don't take Tylenol. I try. I still, even in the bigger picture, given my diet situation, all the extra stuff. I still try to maintain a healthy body, if that makes sense. Like just healthy immune system. Like I drink plenty of water. Now I'm actually doing more. I'm actually drinking more water now than before. Not that I hadn't before, but I guess I drink a lot of water. Kind of like drink just enough water. Now I'm back to drinking a lot of water. So all these little things that I'm now that my I feel like my gears are going. At a pace that I can start creating the next steps of things that I want to accomplish with my time, not just like my life, but just my time that I have available to me. And so, so I really try. I don't take drugs, or I don't take even down to like ibuprofen, Tylenol. Yeah, and people ask, oh yeah, like what? Like my hands hurt. Oh, take some ibuprofen, take some Tylenol. Like just start with that, and then if it gets worse, then obviously you need to go to the doctor and get it checked out. But anyway, so I don't doing it. So like. So they light sedated me. So I was still, because the doc needed me like to open, close, and like do different things while so he had to be able to talk to me and I had to be able to respond. So I now wonder like how in and out I was versus like just reacting to his verbal stimuli, but him talking to me, because every time he talked to me, at least I was aware. I felt like I was awake and conscious for the whole thing. No pain, and even I think I had one situation, and I'm like, oh no, like that actually hurts, and then so he gave me a little more anesthesia there in the site. But the reason why it came to me later, I was like, man, maybe I was kind of in and out more than I thought it was, because the 2 hours went by. It took just about exactly 2 hours from IV insert to end of procedure, and I was like, oh, 2 hours. Like it didn't feel like that. So that's why, I'll have to assume that it wasn't, I wasn't present for the entire 2 hours. It's just whenever he talked to me, I responded, and that was just, it was enough for me to do what he needed. And then he was able to get the whole procedure. That was another thing, is like getting the whole procedure done was, just because there was a chance that the bone graft was going to have to go in, seal it up, then go in however many months and do it again. And I really didn't want to do 3 sessions versus 2 sessions. I'm like, man, I really hope it works out. He's like, well, we'll go in there and we'll see how it looks. And if I feel good about it, we'll insert and we'll close it up, and it'll be two shots, and that's 2 different procedures, not 3 procedures, and you'll be good. I'm like, oh, I hope so. And and luckily when we went to go do my X-ray to see where it sat and make sure placement was good, and I saw it there, I was like, oh, that was probably the biggest relief I've felt in a long time. Because even, knowing that this was coming, even from Tuesday when I had my evaluation for the procedure week, I was like, man, like it's still something. It's still something. It's still invasive. It's still something being done, and it's done a lot, but still, it's not, like it's still my, still my physical body, my physical situation, where it's like, what's this gonna do? But I'm happy to say then, I got back, and obviously I was still more out of it than I thought. I was able to hold full conversations. I could speak full sentences. But it wasn't. So I got back. I didn't eat at all. Drank some water because I was thirsty. But then I napped for like maybe like 2 hours. It wasn't even that long that I napped. I napped for a little bit, but by the time I woke up, when I woke up, I was like, oh, it wasn't too long. It wasn't too bad. But then starting to walk, I felt like sometimes I've heard the description of like, oh, I feel like got hit by a bus. I didn't feel like that at all. I just felt like I felt like I had like a 2 hour hit workout. Like it just reminded me of like I just had full muscle soreness. My calves to my quads, my grip strength was not here. I actually typed because I didn't know how it was going to be right now, so I didn't write one of the quotes that I want to talk about today. But I wrote here just my full notes for today's podcast. But yesterday I couldn't I wrote in my journal yesterday just to write down about the procedure and how it went and just my perspective on the day. And in writing, I'm like, I'm gonna keep this short because like I don't like the way I'm writing. I don't like the way I'm writing because I just my wrist wasn't working normally, and then I couldn't bend and even now it feels weird, but I can at least bend at the thumb. Where yesterday I was just like, I was being all dumb. Not literally dumb, but I felt like my hand was being dumb with it, with my brain. It wasn't connecting. I wasn't able to do this. I was just like, I couldn't text. I was just like texting like this. So I just text with one hand. When I was texting, I didn't text that much, but for the times that I did, just to let my parents know that, hey, I'm good, talking to my friends and whatnot. And then so with that, once I woke up and I was like, I need to do something. And I didn't feel like reading. Like I've been doing good about reading every day, reading at minimum 10 pages every day. And I'm in the last section of the Talent War. So I'm like, well, and also I'm going to have to use on the next episode or on another episode, I'm going to bring up another section that I want to bring up from there. So I'm like, well, you know what? I won't do that. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do today? And then as of Tuesday, Monday night or Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday, because I had to work out Monday. No, as of Monday, I used Fiverr. I used Fiverr to look up so I can make a logo. And if you follow the Instagram page or my personal page, they kind of go hand in hand. But I try to just share whatever goes on my Instagram, my podcast page. I just share it to my friends and those those friends that I have on my my personal Instagram. But I was getting new design made, and it's only gonna be for merch. It's not gonna be like the cover page to the actual podcast. And even on my, so I have an app. So I've already had this Etsy page. I've already had this Etsy thing. If you type in "Moving with Life," it works. It's memories, philosophies, community. That's gonna be the little tagline that I'm gonna run with, because that's what it's been, and those memories have led to philosophies. And then I'm this community by posting videos and trying to be more consistent on Instagram. The podcast page, it is a community. It is something that's trying to be developed, because I believe in that more than I do just sitting here talking. It's like I do believe in community, and I do believe in the philosophies that I've learned, and some of the philosophies that I've created through what I've learned, and the memories that I have where I start tying in. You see me where I've done these, there's networks of ideas that lead to things, and sometimes maybe we don't see them right away, but then time, years pass by, and it's like, oh, that is actually the same thing as this. Doing communicating in person, face to face, whether you're in music, in my case, music, healthcare, retail, and starting from retail, because that was my genesis of my work, my true work experience. But I mean, even when I worked at Pizza Hut, I worked at a daycare summer program, and just these incremental things of learning, watching other people, but then now me doing my thing when I interact with people. And now being in healthcare, it's like I feel like it should already be prevalent, but for me, for me it's amplified, because now I'm dealing with moms and dads, I'm dealing with husbands and wives, kids, older kids who are taking their parents to the hospital now, stuff like that. Communication is so vital, just to either help them stay calm in the situation, get the full story so we can help appropriately. Maybe, I've seen different situations where, let's just say it's a broken bone, and said caregiver of this patient is kind of distressed because now they're watching, because they're in pain. I mean, yeah, you broke a bone, yeah, you're going to be in pain, but just going through those little moments and trying to help console them, say, hey, it's going to be good. Our docs are great. They literally are great. I don't say what I don't feel. And it's like, no, like, and even then, like, even if there's a rough patch, like, not, I don't have any specific examples yet, but like, I just haven't had bad experiences with my doctors, the doctors that I work with. So it's like, no, like, our docs are good. They're going to do their best to assess and then take care of the patient appropriately. But anyways, I digress a lot. Communication, that was the main thing. So communication, going to community and developing this community as you go on this journey on your own, watching me, and then going out and doing your own thing. As if you were to see something that I talk about be implemented by somebody else, that's pretty cool too. Especially when it comes to communication, when it comes to leadership, having good managers, being a manager versus a leader. But then because I'm pretty sure I said this, but like, a manager should be a good leader, but aren't always good leaders. So sometimes managers just manage, and leaders can manage, can work for you, they can be your followers, they can be your subordinates. They can still lead with up and down the chain of command. They know how to lead up and down the chain of command. Leaders are kind of like it's almost a universal title, I'll venture to say. Versus like a manager's they're like, hey, I need you to do this. Why? Why? Like what? And sometimes the why isn't even like, oh, why? Like, who are you to tell me? Like, well, I'm your manager. Yes. But sometimes the why is actually, and this is for you leaders and managers that are in those seats right now. It's like sometimes the why is, well, no, like what's the, like why? Like what's the end goal so I can at least know where the heck we're going? Like what's the end? Like, what impact is this going to make on this, what on the grander mission, the grander goal, the big goal of the store or the hospital or your small restaurant or I meant to say like personal business, like a family owned restaurant, stuff like that. It's like, wow, well, because I'm your boss, like, what? That's a terrible answer. And I've talked about all this, and I don't want to go into that. I don't want to go into it that deep for now, for this episode. But that's the point. Memories, philosophies, community, moving with life. Etsy.com/shop/moving with life. That's the page. There's stickers, a hoodie, or two hoodies technically with a time over money. One with time over money, one with a new logo. The stickers is new logo, and then the OG shirt that I kind of live by. I try my best to live by. I was talking to my buddy last night, and he's like, "Hey man, what you working on?" So I showed him what was going on, and I'm like, "This is my OG shirt. This is because this is a shirt that I created on my own. I made it on my own, and it's the time over money, and it's like the division sign because and this is what I explained to him, and I don't know if I explained it this way here or even over conversation on the podcast, but rich people say, and rich, and we'll say wealthy people, because I talked about wealth and money and status last week, or not last week, but last episode. It's like, I used to hear, and I feel like we, like, on TV, and it's like, oh, time equals money. And before I took it, like your time equals like a dollar sign, but I took it as like the more time you put in, the more money you're gonna get, and that's for whatever. And I have no good reason. That was my naive thought processes, was like, oh, the more time you put in, the more money you're gonna get. And then it wasn't. I can't put a year to it, but when I wrote it at one point, I wrote it out as an equation. So I put time equals money, and I was like, but no, that's not true. And so I was like, no, there's no, like, to me, it's not that there's no way, because there's some truth to it, but it's like, well, it's not the entire truth for me. So with that, I said, well, so then time plus money, and I think I'm talking out now. This is all just me going down this rabbit hole. But finally, when I got to time divided by money, I was like, well, you do that. But I'm like, well, time over money. time is more important than money. And I was like, yeah, that's the one. Time is more important than money. And so that's where that was my genesis of that OG shirt, time over money, literally. So I now put that simple art on a hoodie. I'm looking to get me one of the new logo hoodies. And then I have one more thing that I ordered first before I put it on the store, because I want to see how it comes out, and if I like it, then I'll post it on the store too. It's something it's something that's gonna be needed to be used every day. But then I saw some pictures on some how other ways this thing can be used. And I was like, ooh, I like that, and I think people would like that too. So when I get that, and it's gonna be the end of next week or so. So it'll be probably 2 or 3 episodes from this episode. But I'm at least mentioning that there's merch. I'll put the main link into the show notes now, so you can see it or see what I have so far. And then we'll go from there. You know, it's to support the podcast, to support the ideas and these things that trying to bring the whether it's, let's just say, whether it's me buying a book and bringing it here, like lately it's been I've been talking about the Talent War in 1984 a lot. Whether it's like stuff like that, but it's to support the podcast. It's so we can keep this running. And the thing is to spread the idea. That's why the stickers. I'm also thinking about another little tangent side note as far as what I want to do with stickers soon. Once I figure out that plan, then I'll present it, via video and Instagram and all this other good stuff, and we'll go from there. But again, the biggest thing for me, the biggest thing I want is the community aspect. It's spreading the word so that we can live. And this is going to tie into the final point of today's episode, or this current episode right now, episode 112. So I watched Joe Rogan. So I couldn't sleep last night because I want to say the little nap I took, but then thinking, and my mind was kind of racing because I had just finished like all this merch. I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm excited about it. It's like, okay, cool. Like and Joe Rogan posted that he had just watched the movie Greenland. With is it Gerard Butler or Gerald Butler? It's the Butler guy, the guy from White House Down and those good movies. Olympus Has Fallen, I think, is the other one. Because then Channing Tatum's the superhero in the last one, or whatever the order was. But he posted, he's like, man, I'll just read what he put. Yeah, my hand's still not like my grip. My hands function, which is I'm glad, but my grip strength is still not the best. Where is this? Here it is. So Joe Rogan posted on his Instagram. He's like, I watched Greenland movie tonight, and it freaked me the fuck out. Maybe it was the 11 months of COVID-19 tension, and I'm sure the last week of Texas freeze probably ramped it up for me as well. But this movie is gonna stay with me for a while. One of the weird things about people is that even though we know certain things have happened and will definitely happen again, if they aren't something we've witnessed in our lifetime, we kind of don't think about them as real. Extinction events have occurred multiple times on Earth, but most of us don't really walk around to think this might happen while I'm alive. Sort of like how we used to think about pandemics. I think this movie just changed that for me. And so I was like, I'm like, well, let me see, because it came out in 2020. I'm not gonna look up what month or what day it came out, but it came out last year, sometime last year, almost, whatever time last year. But so I looked it up, and it's available for sale already. And I'm like, well, I don't want to. Sometimes I will jump the gun and I'll buy something when it comes to movies, because I will say, like, I'm audiophile, but I'm also a movie buff, but it's a very specific niche, and it's usually about life or like something action related, war related, those directions. But like, what's available for rent? I'm like, well, let me rent it. And I'm glad I did, because it's not a movie that I would have in my collection, at least not right now. But I rented it, and I watched the first half last night. I slept for a few hours. I woke up this morning. Because right now it's barely 8:30. So like I've been up for a little while. I finished watching it this morning when I woke up. And we went through it, and I'm not gonna talk about it pretty much at all. Just that I recommend it, and to me, I do agree on. I like how they really opened up, because they really expanded on the human instinct and the savages that we are. Like, the human being is capable of so much, but you don't realize the savagery that we will commit when it comes down to our well-being and our individual livelihoods. And that's even if you have kids. That's even if you have a family. That's even if you have a bunch of stuff. Or like a lot of things that, not tangible things, but just things that, like a family, like kids, like a husband, like a wife. And I was like, wow, they really amplified that. They really showed that off. And I was like, that's the human. That's, to me, it's like that's the human instinct. That's the human being, is everything they showed in this movie. So I do recommend to rent it. And if you've been following me and you follow this podcast, and if you use anything from this podcast, I do recommend at least renting it. I rented it on Apple TV. And I recommend at least watching it once, and you can have your opinion on it, and you will develop your own opinion on it. But I just recommend it from a human aspect, because it really shows the character of a human being, good and bad. And yeah, and so at some point in the movie, and if you watch the movie and you get all the way through, you'll know this. You'll hear this quote. It says, "Your life flashes right in front of your eyes when you die. I think it would be better if it did that while we live that." Did I mess it up? I think it would be better if it did that while we lived, so that you could see all the good memories and be happy. And when that part came up, I was like, that really summed it. Because then the response was like, hey, that's a good idea. Especially, let me read that last sentence again. But I think it would be better if it did that while we lived, so that you could see all the good memories and be happy. Because I know I've heard it, and sometimes through movies, but sometimes it's a cliche in conversation where it's like, your life flashes right before your very eyes. And a lot of times it happens when you are in a life or death situation. And then that second sentence, obviously, I think it would be better if it was when we were alive, like right now. Like even if you stop listening at the end, or when you get done listening to this podcast, you go about your day. But then you go through, let's say, an hour or 5 minutes, a minute of you sit down and you think of all the good things, all the good times, all the good memories. Even if sometimes that's like missing your family, because that's a different type of like heart wrench, is missing your family, missing your friends, missing your husband, missing your wife, missing your kids, or whatever the situation may be. But doing that like now, and I was like, yeah. And so I wrote. So that was, I wasn't sure where I was gonna put this part of the episode, but it tied in really well with the merch, yes. But still, it's the premise of memories and philosophy and community. It really is, and it's interesting how it's kind of tied up with that. I'll have to go into depth about what I mean later, because I can't talk about a lot of the details, or some of them I can't talk about yet, and some of them I don't want to talk about yet. But there's just been a lot of death around lately, and that's just a matter of fact. And there's been different situations, even when I was recording consistently, like the end of 2017, like latter 2018, when I was like really recording a lot of episodes, or consistent episodes at least once a week, where I had want to talk about it, and I'm still at a place where I don't want to talk about it yet here, or maybe I can't, or I won't talk about it yet. Jocko, he's when he did the My Lai Massacre, when he did the Rape of Nanking, Machete season, there's several books that he reviewed, and he says, or he said, along the lines that because it's hard to talk about, that's why you should talk about it. And I think he's right. But it's not my time yet to do that. But I do want to end on this still light at the end of the tunnel, light at the beginning of the tunnel, through the tunnel, till you get to the end of the tunnel. But it's like your life flashes right in front of your eyes when you die. I think it would be better if it did that while we lived, so that you could see all the good memories and be happy. And that's the goal, is to be happy. And everybody has different definitions. We've talked about how money is incorporated into that. We talked about how time is incorporated into that. We've talked about how having the right people around you, having to cut people out of your life that, you know, maybe it's not the right time, maybe it's not the right time now, or maybe there's been too much time given to this, there's too much time and energy given to this person, these people, wherever that may be. And so yeah, I think that's where I'm going to end, is to go out and maybe take 5 minutes and just remember every good time that you can think of, no matter what it was, no matter who it was with, no matter who it was, where it was, who it was, what was happening, what that moment was, what that accomplishment was, anything, but the good memories, and then go out and live and be happy, or, you know, try your best to be happy because you have these memories that you can cherish, and then you go out and live and try to make some more. Yeah, that's all I got. I hope you got something out of this. Sometimes I feel really dialed in, and maybe it's because I've recorded more episodes. I've been recording kind of more often, and I try to stagger them appropriately accordingly, throughout the weeks, and even though this is still very early, because this is the first time I feel like, okay, I'm kind of not necessarily on a roll, but it's like, okay, I feel like I can talk about these things, and I feel like I want to talk about these things because they are relevant to moving with life and the things that I've learned, and then bringing them out and reiterating them, talking about them again, talking about them for the first time. Maybe it's a new idea you heard now, or maybe you heard something similar before and now it's tied in, you know, a different way. But yeah, I'm also back on Twitter. I've been on and off forever. I saw that I was on since September 2009, which is forever ago. And that was actually a few months before I got my wisdom teeth pulled out. So I got them pulled out December 2009, and so that was that. But hopefully you got something out of this. Go watch Greenland. It's worth it. If you got through this episode and you made it through with me, and if you're on board with what I'm bringing to this podcast and to, you know, what I'm trying to bring to light, really, in my own point of views, in my own experiences, then Greenland would be a good one to see what the human character is really about, good and evil. So yeah, cool. So I'm out. Remember to take care of each other, take care of yourself, mentally and physically. Think of the good memories, and let's try our best to be happy. So with that, I will see you all very, very soon.